So, what has our favourite Chinese multi-hyphenate ray of sunshine been up to this week? Find out on the Wang Yibo Weekly. Okay, so this week there is both a lot and not so much Yibo news. If you recall, when we spoke last, Yibo was in New York City. There was the fashion show for Chanel, the Metier d'Art show. That was in New York time on the 2nd, but in China and my time on the 3rd, on the Wednesday last week. And he didn't actually immediately disappear. On the 4th, he posted on his Weibo, and the IP was in New York. He was also actually spotted doing some indoor rock climbing in a place in New York. But then by the 5th, he posted on his Weibo again, and that time it was from Beijing. So he travelled back at some point between those two things, the second half of last week. So apart from the show, and I am going to, when we finish up all my rambling, we're going to have a look at him, a little bit of video of him at the show, because he was gorgeous. And like, that's not unexpected, but yeah, we're gonna dwell on that for a moment, a little later. Apart from that, the big news is more exploring the unknown. So episodes 3 and 4 came out over the past weekend, and that is him traveling to Squamish in British Columbia in Canada. But maybe even more exciting than that, which has got nothing to do with Yibo directly, but there is at least one person has got a fan-subbed English translation, subtitled version of the first 2 episodes up on YouTube. Who knows how long it will last? If you haven't seen it, I suggest you scurry across there now. I'll put the links in the description, or you could just search it up. Yes, so I've now actually seen the first 2 episodes in a form in which I can understand what was happening. So let's just quickly run through a couple of things that I gathered from that. Firstly, this whole season is going to be very much climber heavy. Last week I said, I get the feeling we're going to have climbing every episode. I get the feeling we're going to have climbing every episode. So there's a bit in it where Yibo talks about the fact that in the first season, he did like taster of a whole bunch of different things. But in this season, he wants to focus on rock climbing. So my guess is that he's like doing different climbs, growing skills, and we're building towards a big climb for the climax of the season. And they're talking about something in Yosemite. I'm assuming because it made it into the edit, he actually does this. It's not just, well, we were hoping to do that, but it turns out that's not achievable. I think we're going to end up with a big climb on, is it El Capitan in Yosemite? Anyway, that's what we're working towards. But there are lots of skills that he needs to kind of like bed down before he can attempt like a super big climb. And that's what we're going to be working through in the season. So that is what I gathered from actually watching it with the subtitles now. But you don't have to trust me. You can just go and watch it. But I will just quickly do a recap of what happened in episodes 3 and 4, because I have, because I'm like that, I have watched them in the Chinese. So let's do that now. So episode 3 introduces Squamish. So Ryder and Yibo go and meet these 2 guys at the logging camp, the logging sports camp. And They do some logging. They talk about logging sports and they do some logging sport. They did axe throwing, which was super fun. They did the thing with the logs where they're standing on the logs and they're competing to see who can like stay on the longest. And they did the competitive log soaring. So yes, that was like the intro there. Then they have a trip to get some gear, and they go and visit a shop and they talk about gear. My understanding is that the climbing that they're doing in this sort of week is a lot to do with getting to grips with some particular types of gear, of climbing gear. So like these plugs or whatever the translation is, they call them nuts I think that's the same thing when they're in the gear shop. All these different sizes of little like wires with things on the end, and you sort of stick it in a crack and like squiggle it so that it's kind of going to hold, and then you can kind of like clip stuff onto the other end. And all of the climbs that they've done this weekend, you see them with these belts full of massive amounts of gear. Like it must have been so heavy, all these massive, like, because you have to have a whole range of different things so that you've got exactly the right thing for the whatever you're facing at a particular moment on a climb. So they went and got some gear, and then they headed off for this like very aid heavy climb, and that was the majority of what happened in episode 3. Oh, I forgot. There was also pancakes. They made pancakes in episode 3, and we have a lovely little bit of humour with yibo cooking because you always need to have a bit of a laugh. Okay, so episode 4. Episode 4, still in Squamish. It opens on day 10. I don't know. We're up to like 2 weeks into the trip by the end of this episode. But, you're not seeing all of the bits and pieces. In the first season, because each week was kind of with a different person, I think we kind of got a lot more of them. Like you got the kind of rhythm of their days and stuff, and they'd walk, they'd do something, and then they'd camp and eat, and then they'd do something else. And this is like we're kind of getting an edited version of numbers of days put together. Anyway. The second episode in Squamish, it opens with a climb. They do a climb up called Split Beaver, which looks to be quite a challenging climb, and they get to a certain point, and then they put out they build up a platform. I don't know if they stayed overnight. Like there's nothing sort of saying that in the visually in the show, but they kind of just like they sort of drift away from that into the next thing, which is like a whole other day. So they climb up, they put up a platform, and they're chattering away. They're cooking and eating and looking out over the view, and it's lovely. In episode 4, we have a ride in the van, and the two of them, Ryder and yibo, are talking about the music that they're listening to, and it's Beethoven's Fifth. And I think Ryder is a violinist. I think that's part of what that conversation was. Anyway, it'll be great to see it with actual subs and know what was going on, because it looked like an interesting conversation. But anyway, that happened. They had a trip to the doctors. yibo was having trouble with his left shoulder, and so he gets worked on. And they do some disc golf, which seems like they're having a fun time out doing that. They go for some ice cream, and then they finish up with the episode with another climb, and it seems to be another climb with these like bits of gear. Yeah. And then they end the show. The episode is the two of them are sitting on the top of this sort of like rock formation that they've just climbed out, looking out over the beautiful view, enjoying life. And that is what the whole show is. And that's what happened in episodes 3 and 4. Also, I have to mention there was in episode 4 some incredibly clunky product placements for Super X and for Red Bull. So that was something else that happened in episode 4. I wonder how much more of that we're going to get. That pretty much brings us up to brand stuff. 2 big brand stories for the week. C-Car re-upped with yibo, moved into the 3rd year with him as a sponsor, and they did a few bits and pieces to announce that. And yibo has a brand new endorsement, which is DaMoWang, or Big Demon King, which sounds super ominous. But they're a snack company, and they put out a whole full-on ad with, you know, either with friends, like watching sports or playing games or something, and then snacking down on the DaMoWang stuff. The particular product that they're going out hard with for the initial launch is sesame. I'm going to get this wrong. Sesame sauce vegetarian tripe, which sounds delicious. I'm sure you'll agree. Anyway, it's all completely Chinese inexplicable, and I don't know if I'm quite game enough to search up to see if anybody sells it out here. Should I see if I can get some? Maybe. Yeah. So that's the big brand story. That brings him up to 32 endorsements, 33. I have to run the numbers again. Anyway, it's too many. Sorry, a lot. Wasn't actually that much brand stuff this week. And I'm feeling tired, so we're going to close it off there. Looking forwards, we've got another episode, another week of Exploring the Unknown. At the end of episode 4, they did a little bit of a preview, and this week it's going to be the fishing week coming up. And there was also the shot of him, yibo, doing free climbing on a boulder and dropping off into the ocean. So, wow, that's exciting. That's what's to look forward to. As I said at the very beginning, we're going to go out with some footage of yibo in New York for Chanel. I hope you're all well. I hope you have a great week and enjoy your Wang yibo Wednesday.